All right, so welcome to the Be Kind Network. I'm Damon McMurdo, and yesterday I gave you a question, one single question that I thought was pretty easy, and that was when you had to make a 5-digit number that had to be divisible by 2, 3, 5, 6, and 9. And you had the divisibility rules. So, first, before I do anything, I'm going to go over some of the answers I got. Some of the ones I got from y'all were correct. Some of them were incorrect. I'm not going to say names. I'm not going to say, like, Phoenix put 25 as his 5-digit number. I mean, he didn't, but I want to talk about... I don't know how to word this. I want to talk about working hard. Because if you got this incorrect, your level of effort wasn't where it's supposed to be. Okay, your level of effort wasn't where it's supposed to be. So look out here. The one for 2, so it must be even. So that means my ones place has to be a 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0. Okay, I can't really do my divisibility rule for 3 yet until I get my number and see if I can add the digits up, and they're a sum of 3. For 5, so this is for the number 2. For number 5, the divisibility rule for 5, it has to end in 5 or 0. So now I know that. Knowing these two rules, I can start off with my ones place. Because it has to be an even number for 2, and it has to end in 5 or 0 for the number 5. So my ones place has to be a 0. My ones place has to be a 0. That's the only option you have for your ones place. If your ones place is not a 0, then it's not going to be divisible by 2, or it's not going to be divisible by 5. One of these two won't work if it's not a 0. Just simple fact. Let's look at, we don't even really need to look at 6, because 6 says if it's divisible by 2 and 3. So all I got to do is make sure 2 and 3 are good, and I'm golden. 3 says sum of digits must be a multiple of 3. So if I have my multiplication chart, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. So all of my digits, it says the sum of the digits have to add up to one of these multiples. So that's for 3. For 9, 9's the same way. The sum has to add up to a multiple of 9. 9, 18, 27, 36. Which, that eliminates, it can't add up to 3, it can't add up to 6, it can add up to 18. So if you follow the 9 rule, the 3 rule's taken care of. So really, all you had to do, if you took your time and worked it out, all you had to do is follow these 3 rules, and all 5 of them would be taken care of. I saw some of you yesterday, and it made me crazy. You were like, okay, here's my number, 27398. Let's divide that by 6. And then let's do the same thing and divide it by 9. And you didn't have to do any division. This question wasn't to make it so you had to do division. That's why the divisibility rules were in your folder. You didn't have to do any division. You had to do some logic. You had to do some thinking. You had to be willing to work. and some of you were not willing to work. That one was worth 20 points on that, which means at worst you should have gotten an 80, because the other side was just tell me whether the number's prime or composite, and you had that sheet in your journal. But some of you wanted to get it done in that much time, and so you told me 81 was a prime number, and I said, but you have it crossed off as composite. Well, I saw it. Where?
I did.
Well, it's not there now. I wasn't talking about you. Well, all of a sudden it's not there now, so a ninja broke into the room while you were gone and took your textbook, and then number 81 was written down, and it went. They took the pencil lead out, so there was no 81 written down. So let's look at some of the answers I got yesterday. And this one was from this class. What is wrong with that number?
It doesn't have 5 numbers, I know.
I'm not saying anybody's name. Why are you getting upset? It doesn't have 5 digits. I mean, when I'm grading it, I don't have every possible answer in the world because there are many. All I had to do when I was grading it is check the rules. Let's look at another one I got. Let's see. This again is from our class. Is it divisible by 2?
Yes.
Is it divisible by 5?
Yes.
Okay, I already told you don't have to do 6. We just have to check 9. What is the sum of the digits here?
15.
Well, more than 15.
18. I mean 18.
18? So this one would work. It's divisible by 2. 18 is a multiple of 3, so it's divisible by 3. It's divisible by 5 because it ends in a 0. It's 6 because it's divisible, we already decided, by 2 and 3. And 9 because 18 is a multiple of 9. But see, that's really all it took. But some of you were doing the division. Some of you were counting on your toes. Some of you were in 12 and a half seconds like, I can't do it, too hard. Can't be done. Can't. Life's not that way. We have to be willing to continue to work. We can't quit. We can't quit. You must be willing to fight through it. I told you the first day, the problem we're going to have, and I won't say it a problem, but a habit you're going to have to break is wanting to get done in 10 seconds and not wanting to check your work. So those are the habits we're going to break. One of my classes, this was the answer. Not a 5-digit number, not divisible by 2. The sum of the digits are not divisible by 3. Since it's not divisible by 2, it's not divisible by 6. And the sum of the digits is not divisible by 9. Okay, the only one it followed was it was divisible by 5. But all you had to do is take your number, look at the rules, and go through the number and see if it met the rules. And once, and I said you couldn't copy with your group, but we said, we just said 94,320, right? We just said that number worked, so why couldn't I have gone? I mean, if one person in my group figured that out, my whole group should have been able to. I mean, once I figured out really, all I had to do was put a 0 in my ones place and then find 4 numbers that if you added them together would be a multiple of 9. That's really all it took. Is if you put a 0 in your ones place, found 4 numbers that when you add them together It was a multiple of 9. Four numbers, when you add them together, it's a multiple of 9. That's really all it took. But what I saw, and again, this is a learning experience. As I told you at the beginning, I don't care about your grade. I care about you improving on your knowledge. So if I gave another question like this later, you guys wouldn't freak out over it and take 90 minutes just to do this one. Okay, so I care about you learning. That's what I care about. I care about you learning. Your grade doesn't matter to me. No one is going to pull your mom over in the car and say, I need Gage. He only got a 72 on that assignment and he really should have gotten a 90. All right. Heads gets the hood of the car. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you do, say, can, and will be used against you in a court of law. You have a right to an attorney. If you cannot afford an attorney, the state will pay for one for you. Do you have any questions? What am I being arrested for? You only got a 72 on that assignment and you should have gotten 100 because it was easy. Let's see, that doesn't happen. But we learn from it. We learn from it. It's not something that's difficult. And I'm also going to tell you this. There isn't a single student that I teach or have ever taught that doesn't have the ability to get most of the stuff I teach you correct. Not a single student. Everybody in here, you have the ability to get things correct. We have to think whether our answer is reasonable, and we have to be willing. Some of you think, well, I got my answer. And then you're like, I don't want to go back and check it. This is what I got yesterday too. Different task. But it said, and I'm going to make up the numbers. It said there was one tree that was 6 5/10 meters tall. It said the other tree was 5/10 as high. And you figured out it was a multiplication problem. But some people got an answer of 31 25/100. Well, if we're multiplying 6 by something less than 1, this 6 5/10 is going to get smaller. My answer has to be less than 6 5/10. And if we followed the rules of divide or multiplying decimals, which you have also written in your journal, there are 2 numbers behind the decimal point in the problem. There needs to be 2 numbers behind it in the answer. This was 650 is how it was written. Okay, and so there needs to be 3 behind it in the answer. So it should have been 3 and 125 thousandths. We just have to use a little bit of more thinking, a wee bit of more checking work, a wee bit of more wanting to get it right instead of just wanting to get it done. You have to want it to get it right instead of just wanting to get it done. I mean, if let's use an example here. Ashley, your mom's driving you to a birthday party, and she's like, "All right, I'll drive you to the birthday party. I don't care if we get to the right place. I'm just going to drop you off where I think the right place might be." And then she kicks you off, and you're in the middle of I-35. Well, that's where I thought it was. I just didn't want to check the word or check the directions. I mean, that doesn't make sense. As an adult, you can't quit. And so this is a skill I want you to learn forever. And I'm not saying when you get in 6th grade, you are not going to be prepared. Because if you learn here and you learn these skills here, you're going to be prepared forever. Because I'm not the brightest bulb in the drawer, but I don't quit. And you guys are all highly intelligent, and if you don't quit and you learn to fight through difficulty and you learned to just keep trying, you're going to easily be successful in life. And that's my goal, for you to be successful in life. If you're successful in life, school will take care of itself. I'm serious, Phoenix. Stop. Stop throwing things at me.
I'm not.
Now, something else yesterday that I want to talk about. On the menu, and you'll be able to check your menu grade here in a minute, but on the menu, you had problems like,
Are we going to be doing a review all day?
I don't know. Let's say,
Can we do one?
is 21. You had a problem, you had similar problems to this. But in the answer choice, in the answer choices, it said that you had to write the equation and you had to write what P equaled. You had to write the equation and then you had to write what P equaled. Some of you just wrote 17, 18, 19, 20, 20. Some of you wrote, here was your answer. 4. 4 means nothing to me. I don't know where that 4 came from. I don't know if somebody from Mars beamed themselves down and just wrote 4 on your paper because they wanted to do the Gettysburg Address and say 4 score and 7. I don't know that. It asked for the equation. An equation, and as I have written up there, an equation would be something like, my equation would be 21 subtract 17 equals P. Or 17 plus P equals 21. And then you'd say P equals 4. This would be the right answer. Those of you, when you look at your grade, if you don't like your grade, I understand, I'm going to let you redo it, as I always do, because that's part of learning. That's part of learning. But if all you put was P equal 4, the problem said, what's the equation and what is P equal? Some of you answered like this. Okay, that's not an equation. An equation is in one straight line. Because an equation can have many steps. An equation could have 3 plus 2 times 6 minus 1 equals... That's an equation. An equation I wouldn't want this step, and then this step, and then this step, all in their own lines. This is an equation. This is not an equation. And we're going to get into this pretty soon, where you have to solve multiple steps in one equation. Please stop drumming. Okay, so this is something else. That's why we take baby steps. We start with writing an equation with one variable. Then we move on, so they have other variables. Another thing that I saw yesterday, and as I said, you're going to get a chance to redo this, so don't panic. You're going to have your chance to improve it. Something you need to know also is if a number and a letter are side by side, so if this said 6M, that's multiply. Number and a letter side by side means multiply. Number and a letter side by side means multiply. A dot means multiply. And we've talked about that a little bit. The reason behind the dot, because if I put the... Okay, that looks like 6xm. So as you move along, you need to recognize that the dot also means multiply. Okay? So number and a letter side by side, multiply. The dot, multiply. And as we move on to fractions, we'll also see that the word of means multiply. Because you already know that. If I said half of the brownies, you'd divide or you'd multiply whatever of those brownies. You'd multiply it by a half. 12 brownies, half of the brownies, 1/2 times 12 equals 6. So you're going to be learning things, but you need to recognize those three things. Number and letter side by side, multiply. Number, or any dot. I could do 7 dot m, and that's going to be multiply. Because it looks crazy like this. There was another question on there where you had to figure out, where is it here?
Is this the last question?
I don't know. You had to figure out, it was text messages, and a lot of you did it backwards. And you were trying to figure out which day they got, or how many text messages they got on one day. But if it said Sunday and Saturday, and it said on 33 text messages on Saturday, which were 18 fewer messages than she received on Sunday. So what day did she have the fewest messages?
Sunday.
Some of you did it backwards and made Saturday the fewer text messages. So something you need to look for, and I always like to write a little notes on there to give myself some thinking room, is you need to, I needed to, because fewer it made you want to subtract. What you did is you took the number that it got on Saturday, subtracted that, and got 15, and thought 15 is how many they got on Sunday, even though it said Saturday was more than Sunday, or whatever it said. But you weren't supposed to subtract. You were supposed to add. Okay, so that was one thing we struggled with. I'm not taking questions right now because you're all going to have to go to the bathroom. You should have done that before the bell. You have 15 minutes, so stop. I'm not listening. There's one that you had to pick the estimation. It said, what's a good estimation? 7.9 times 3.86. And it asked which one of these would be the best estimation, and it gave you 4 choices. Some of you selected 70 times 40. Well, look, 7's close to 8. 3's close to 4. 7 times 8, or 7 times 4 is 28. Or 8 times 4 is 32. This is 320. This is 320, or 3,200. 2,800, whatever. But the answer's not close to an estimate. And remember, as we've talked about, the whole purpose of your estimate is to verify whether the math you're doing makes sense. That's why that tree one didn't make any sense. Because your estimate the number got bigger instead of smaller. So you have to do your estimate first, and it's going to save you work in the end. Because you would have never put 31.25 if you'd have done your estimate first and figured out my answer's got to be less than 6 because I'm multiplying by something less than 1. We make sense here?
Yeah.
We're sure?
Yes.
Okay? So if you get another problem like this, I want you to take the time, fight through it.
Yes,
If you
sir.
get another problem with the algebra equations where they draw the box and they put part of it equals m or whatever, write the equation and then tell me what the answer is. Don't just write the answer. The first 2 problems on there, you should have written this many hours, this many pounds. Label what your answer is. Because that's the one thing I hate about IKEA. Is when you're putting things down together at IKEA, they don't label anything. They just give you this picture.
Is that a furniture store?
So things need to be labeled to make it easier for you. If your mom asked you 7 questions and you went up and said, 5,280, 63, it's on the left, spinach, and something else, she's going to be like, what in the world are you talking about? Yet, I'm grading papers, and that's exactly what you're doing to me. I need you to explain your answer. Now, I know mine are numbered. I know what you're talking about because I can read it. But as I said, as we move forward, I need to know that that number you're writing about is in pounds. I need to know that what you wrote down was in dollars. Oh, and my favorite, and I'm only telling you all this stuff because I'm letting you do it again, and I want it to be better. One of my favorite answers, actually it wasn't my favorite, it made me insane. Because it said, which color marble was the question. Which color marble? And some of you answered 48.
No.
Okay, more than 5 of you at least answered 48. And I'm just saying, hey, I don't recognize the color 48.
What color is that? I've never.
I have a 5 and a 6-year-old, and when we learn our colors, we use red, it's orange,
48.
that's green, that's 48, that's blue. So that's what I've talked about in the past several times. You have to answer the question that's being asked,
Gotta read it.
not the question you want to answer. How many pounds of food can they eat? I will say chicken.
I can eat it. I know,
Okay,
right?
you have to answer the question that's being asked.
So hard.
Answering whatever question you want to makes the question be wrong. And yes, I was a little bit strict on grading this. If you put the answer 4, and you should have written the equation, 3 plus m equals 4, m equals 1, or 3 plus 1 equals m equals 4, and all you did was put that, I marked it wrong because I know you knew the answer, but I need you to represent the answer in the correct fashion. Because, same thing, I'm going to go back to given directions. Go back to given directions. If you're saying, all right, to get to my house, you're going to go that way for a while, then you're going to turn. You're going to go in the direction that you turned, and then you're going to turn again. But then when you get there, you're going to have to turn. And so you're going to have to turn 5 times to get to my house. But then if you miss it, then you've gone too far because you see that one thing that'll tell you if you go too far because you saw that thing and that thing is past where my house is. So then you're going to have to do a U-turn and you're going to have to go back and turn. So then if you miss that first turn, you're going to have to take the second turn, but you're going to have to take the second turn twice. What? See, it doesn't make sense, does it? It doesn't make sense. Even though those directions make sense in your head, well, yeah, I know that I go to that place. I turn right by the QT. I know that, and I turn right by it. Even though those directions make sense in your head, doesn't mean they make sense in somebody's head who is looking at it, who is reading it, who's trying to figure out things. Hannah.
If you wrote 48 and green marble,
That would be fine. 48 and green marble would be fine. 48 by itself meant nothing as far as that question. Maybe if the question was, what's the number after 47, you'd want 48 be the answer, but not what color marble. Do your estimation. Don't be a person that quits. Boom shakalaka. Be nice.